In the archives of American crime history, few names evoke as much fascination as Bonnie and Clyde. Their crime spree during the Great Depression left a trail of violence and notoriety across the nation. But how did the infamous duo meet their end? The story of Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow's demise is shrouded in myth and legend. In this video, we will delve into the real and gritty details of how Bonnie and Clyde truly met their fate. Prepare for a journey back in time as we separate fact from fiction and uncover the untold story of the day Bonnie and Clyde's criminal reign came to a dramatic and deadly end. Let's uncover the truth. Remember to hit that subscribe button and like the video if you're loving the content. Your support means the world to us. It was a spring morning in Louisiana, near the Texas border, the foul heart of the Great Depression, May 23, 1934, to be precise. Clyde Champion Barrow, one of America's most wanted men. Casually park your stolen Ford outside Mal Canfield's coffee shop and order a breakfast of burgers, blets, and fried bolognese, depending on which testimony you want to believe. There were many witnesses, and all seemed to know exactly who Clyde was. He lurks in the area for some time. They watched attentively as he collected the sandwiches, hobbled back to his car, and handed them to his driver, Bonnie Elizabeth Parker, one of the most wanted women in the country. Morning at Ma Canfield. You'll notice that Bonnie didn't give Clyde's last name. This was not a primitive feminist declaration of independence. It reflected the fine detail that the two notorious fugitives were never married, at least not with each other. Bonnie was essentially the wife of a rogue con man named Roy Thornton, who was in prison for robbery. Bonnie didn't even give her name. She married him when she was still 16, but soon she thought of marriage, and after a few years she broke up with him. But since neither of them were divorced, officially Bonnie and Clyde were living in sin, but that was only a small part of their illicit activities. In May 1934, the couple were wanted on multiple theft and murder charges and broke the law in almost every conceivable way. They were also popular as criminal pinups, thanks to a compelling collection of photographs discovered by the police in their former hideout. But on the spring morning of 1934, there was little glamour in her life. Bonnie was in the car while Clyde went to the restaurant because she could barely walk. About 9 months ago, Clyde drove another stolen car into a river and battery acid splashed onto one of Bonnie's legs. They managed to save her legs from total destruction with a little baking soda, but the acid attacked her bones in places. Her situation deteriorated to the point that Bonnie had to hop around her instead of walk her, and often Clyde had to hold her. And, as already mentioned, Clyde clearly limped. A few years ago, he had 2 of his toes amputated while in prison to escape the brutal forced labor regime at Easton Prison Farm. After all, it would be unnecessarily exhausting to drag Bonnie in for breakfast sandwiches, so she waited in her car. As Clyde exited the parking lot, Bonnie took a few bites of her sandwich and wrapped the rest in the paper napkins provided. Shortly afterward, Bonnie and Clyde were driving Ruth Warren's stolen car through the backcountry at 60 miles per hour when they discovered a truck that appeared to be broken down. The driver was standing desperately next to the car. They knew the truck and the driver very well. It was Ivy Methvin, whose son Henry was part of Bonnie and Clyde's small gang. Bonnie and Clyde, Buck Barrow, and members of the Barrow gang have been spending many nights at the Methvin household lately. Clyde slowed the car down to see if he needed help. The setup. Ivy didn't need help. In fact, his truck wasn't broken. About 2 months ago, the violent, hot-tempered Henry, just released from prison, disobeyed Clyde's orders and kidnapped a police officer who got too close to him, instead shooting him dead. Enraged at the needless loss of life, Clyde reluctantly shoots the second mate, 24-year-old, about-to-be-married freshman, who was on motorcycle patrol on his first day, dead. Bonnie and Clyde are already wanted for a number of crimes, but this outrage turned public sentiment against them and prompted law enforcement to do whatever it took to bring them to justice. Given the nature of the case and his role in it, Henry was bold enough to negotiate a deal with the police, but a squad of law enforcement officers ambushed two of his former accomplices. That's exactly what he did when he agreed to help do it. Henry's father, Ivy, was scouted for the role and performed convincingly in this May morning. As Bonnie and Clyde barely slowed to check on Ivy, 6 men with guns emerged from the woods and opened fire. The phrase "a hail of bullets" doesn't quite describe what happened next. It was more like a blizzard. The men fired 167 shots. The windshield of Clyde's stolen car had numerous holes in it. The Texas Ranger named Frank Hammer, responsible for this bloodshed, was anything but a sensitive man. He moved to her passenger side, where Bonnie lay sprawled on her half-eaten sandwich, and fired another shot at her prone body at point-blank range. She was definitely dead, and so was Clyde. That marked the end of their career as one of the most famous crime couples in American history.